When my son's fiancée rudely told me to leave the wedding because I was allegedly ruining the atmosphere of the celebration, I calmly refused. Then she lied to my son, saying that I had hit her so that he would kick me out. I just smiled and replied, "I'll leave, but only with you, son." By revealing what was hidden, I shattered their illusions. The wedding was canceled. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I pulled my truck into the country club parking lot 45 minutes before the ceremony. The spring air carried that distinctive Texas blend of cedar and fresh-cut grass, warm enough to make my suit collar feel tight against my neck. I hadn't worn this suit since Patricia's funeral 5 years ago, and the fabric seemed to remember grief better than celebration. Through the rearview mirror, I adjusted my tie for the third time. My hands were steadier than I expected. Michael was getting married today, my only son, the boy I'd raised alone after Patricia passed, now 35 and building his own life. That should have been enough to calm my nerves. But Jennifer had been living in my house for 8 months now, and something about her presence felt wrong. Not in ways I could articulate to Michael, just small things that accumulated like dust in corners nobody swept. I stepped out of the truck and walked toward the entrance. The venue sprawled across manicured lawns, all white columns and expensive landscaping. Inside, the cocktail hour was already underway. Crystal chandeliers caught the afternoon light. A string quartet played something classical near the windows. 80 or so guests clustered in small groups, champagne glasses catching the light. Jennifer stood near the bar, her phone clutched in both hands. She wore her pre-ceremony dress, something cream-colored and elegant. Her thumbs moved rapidly across the screen. When she glanced up and saw me, her expression shifted. Not surprise, not a smile. Something harder, colder. She turned her back without acknowledgement. I made my way to the appetizer table, accepting nods from relatives I hadn't seen in years. Michael's college friends stood in a cluster by the champagne fountain. I recognized Laura Bennett, the notary and family friend, watching the room with the careful attention of someone who witnessed documents and understood the weight of signatures. Jennifer continued texting. Every few minutes she'd turn away from whoever was speaking to her, shoulders hunched over the phone, fingers flying. Her body language read like someone conducting business, not celebrating. 30 minutes passed. The string quartet transitioned into something lighter, more festive. I stood near the appetizer table, forcing small talk with a cousin whose name I'd forgotten. Jennifer moved through the crowd, but she never approached me, never made eye contact. Then she did. Her heels clicked across the marble floor with deliberate rhythm. She didn't lower her voice. "Vance, honestly, you smelled terrible." Her nose wrinkled visibly. She took a step backward, as if proximity to me was physically painful. "I don't know what it is, but you're ruining the atmosphere here. This is my wedding day. I need you to leave. Now." Conversations around us faltered. The elderly woman beside me covered her mouth. A groomsman across the room exchanged glances with another. The wedding coordinator froze mid-step, champagne bottle in hand. The string quartet kept playing, oblivious, creating a surreal soundtrack to public humiliation. I kept my voice level, my hands steady at my sides. "Jennifer, I showered this morning, and I'm wearing the cologne Michael gave me last Christmas. I'm the father of the groom. I have every right to be here, and I'm not going anywhere." Her face flushed red. "You're embarrassing everyone. Look at people staring. Michael deserves better than this on his special day. Just go home, please." The whispers started then, fragments floating toward me from different directions. "Did you hear what she said?" And "Poor man, how humiliating." And "What's going on?" Someone asked, "Is the wedding still happening?" I met her eyes directly. "This is Michael's special day, not just yours, and I'm staying for my son." Jennifer's jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought she might say something else, but instead she turned sharply on her heel. The click of her heels against marble sounded like small-caliber gunshots. She disappeared down the hallway toward the dressing rooms. Michael had been standing with his groomsmen near the entrance. He looked between his retreating bride and his father. His hands opened and closed at his sides. His mouth formed words I couldn't hear from this distance, but I read his lips. "I'm sorry." Then he followed Jennifer. The guests remained frozen in their small clusters, conversations replaced by uncomfortable silence and sidelong glances. The string quartet finally noticed something was wrong and let their current piece trail off unfinished. I stood there, suit collar still too tight, and realized with absolute certainty that this was exactly what Jennifer wanted. Not just my absence, something bigger, something calculated. The spring air that had smelled so pleasant an hour ago now felt suffocating. 20 minutes passed like 20 hours. I remained near the windows watching the parking lot, my jaw so tight my teeth ached. Michael hadn't returned. The ceremony's start time came and went. Guests shifted uncomfortably, checking watches, whispering. Some had moved toward the ceremony space, then retreated when no one appeared to organize them. Laura Bennett approached with a glass of water I hadn't requested. "Vance, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Laura." She didn't believe me, but she nodded and stepped away. Then Jennifer emerged from the hallway. 2 bridesmaids supported her on either side. Her mascara ran in dark tracks down her cheeks, and under her left eye a bruise bloomed purple and dark. She moved slowly, as if every step caused pain. The crowd parted. Someone gasped. "He followed me." Jennifer's voice broke on the words. She lifted one shaking hand to point at me. "I just wanted him to leave quietly, and he grabbed my arm, told me I had no right to ask him to go, and then he hit me. Look at my face." The room erupted, not in sound, but in movement. Several guests moved protectively toward Jennifer. Others stared at me with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. A groomsman actually stepped between Jennifer and me, as if I might attack again. Michael appeared behind Jennifer, his face drained of all color. "Dad, what have you done?" His voice shook with anger and something worse than anger. Betrayal. "You hit her? At our wedding? Get out. I don't want to see you right now. Just go." I didn't move, didn't defend myself, didn't raise my voice. The evidence sat in my truck, and arguing here would accomplish nothing. "I'll leave, Michael." I kept my tone measured, quiet. "But only together with you, son. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "Dad!" 5 minutes. Something in my voice must have reached him, because Michael looked at Jennifer, then back at me, then nodded once. He followed me through the main doors. Behind us, the buzz of shocked conversation grew louder. Outside, the evening air had cooled. The parking lot lights cast everything in sodium orange. I unlocked my phone with steady hands and pulled up the video file. "This better be good, Dad. Jennifer's in there crying because you—" "Watch this," I interrupted him, holding out the phone. "Then you tell me who's lying." Michael took the phone. The screen showed our front entryway, timestamp from the previous night, 11:47 p.m. Jennifer appeared on screen, then a man, not Michael. They kissed, not a greeting kiss, the kind of kiss that told stories about what came next. Michael's face went slack. When was this?" "Last night. The detective has been following her for 3 months. There are more photos." I swiped to the gallery. Photo after photo. Jennifer and the same man, I'd learned his name was Brian, at restaurants, entering hotels, sitting in his car outside coffee shops. Each photo dated and time-stamped. 3 months of documentation. Michael watched himself get engaged in these photos' timeline. Watched himself plan a wedding while his fiancée, he built a separate life. "I installed cameras 4 weeks ago," I said quietly, when I started noticing things. "The detective is named Raymond Cole. He's been thorough." Michael's hands trembled as he held the phone. He watched the entryway video again. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 11:47 p.m., less than 24 hours before his wedding. He handed the phone back without speaking and walked toward the venue entrance. I stayed by the truck and watched him disappear inside. 3 minutes later, I heard the change in the crowd noise. Not the shocked buzz from before, but something sharper, more confused. Michael's voice carried through the open doors. Not shouting, but somehow worse. Quiet enough that people had to stop talking to hear. "Who is Brian, Jennifer?" Silence. Then Jennifer's voice, defensive. "What? Michael, what are you talking about? Your father is obviously trying to—" "I saw the video." Michael's voice cut through her words like a blade through silk. "From our house. Last night. Who is Brian?" I couldn't see them from where I stood, but I could imagine Jennifer's face. The calculations happening behind her eyes. She hadn't known about the cameras. Hadn't known about Raymond Cole and his 3 months of photographs. She'd built her scheme on the assumption that I was simply an obstacle, not an adversary. The The sounds from inside changed again. Movement, raised voices, confusion. The wedding coordinator appeared in the doorway, cell phone pressed to her ear, looking stricken. Guests began trickling out, first a few, then more. They walked quickly to their cars, not meeting my eyes, probably wondering what kind of family drama they'd witnessed. Laura Bennett emerged and paused beside my truck. Vance. Just my name, but it carried weight. Laura, the wedding's off. He's in shock. Jennifer left through the back. She's claiming you doctored the video somehow, but no one's listening. They're all leaving. I nodded. Where's Michael? Still inside, sitting in one of the ceremony chairs, just sitting. I should go to him. Give him a few minutes. He needs to process. She touched my arm briefly. I'm sorry this happened, but I'm glad you had evidence. Without it, I'd be the man who hit his son's bride at their wedding. The story would have been written, permanent as scars. Thank you, Laura. She nodded and walked to her car. I stood in the parking lot as the venue emptied, watching strangers leave with stories they'd retell for years. The country club lights blazed against the darkening sky, illuminating empty tables set for celebration, champagne going flat in abandoned glasses. This was only the beginning. Jennifer hadn't just been having an affair. She'd manufactured that bruise, planned that accusation with theatrical precision. She'd wanted me arrested, wanted Michael completely isolated from me, which meant whatever she was planning went deeper than infidelity. I needed more than photos now. I needed a strategy, legal counsel, documentation of everything. Because Jennifer Hayes had just declared war, and she'd done it in front of 80 witnesses. The difference was she didn't know I'd been preparing for battle since the day I first suspected the truth. I spent the night at a roadside motel off Highway 71, the kind with thin walls and a neon sign that buzzed like a dying insect. Sleep came in fragments. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael's face in that parking lot, watching the video, understanding that his entire relationship had been built on lies. The next morning, I drove home. Mid-morning sun turned the asphalt soft. My house sat in Lakeway, a neighborhood where retired engineers like me could afford something solid after 40 years of work. Patricia and I had bought it in 1998. The mortgage burning ceremony had been one of our last celebrations before cancer took her. Jennifer's car occupied the driveway. I sat in my truck, hands on the steering wheel, processing this. She should have been gone, packed and fled in shame after being exposed in front of 80 witnesses. Instead, her silver sedan sat there like a declaration. The front door was unlocked. I found Jennifer in the living room on the couch, my couch, with coffee scrolling through her phone. She didn't stand when I entered, didn't even look up immediately. You need to pack your things and leave. Today. She glanced up then, and her expression held no trace of yesterday's tears or victimhood, just calm, almost amusement. I don't think so, Vance. I've lived here for over a year. I have tenant rights. You can't just throw me out. Tenant rights? You're not paying rent. You're Michael's guest, and he's not here anymore. Jennifer set her phone down deliberately. Michael is a co-owner of this property. I'm his guest, and he invited me to stay. You'll need a court order to remove me, and that takes months, maybe longer. Co-owner. The word landed like a punch. I walked to my home office, past the photos of Patricia on the walls, past Michael's childhood drawings I'd never taken down. My hands shook as I pulled the file cabinet open, found the property documents I hadn't examined in years. There it was, the deed. My name? Yes. But beside it, Michael Anthony Jenkins. Joint tenancy. 50-50 ownership. I remembered now. 3 years ago, Michael's business venture had failed. Some tech startup that burned through investor money and left him owing $45,000. I'd helped him, sold some stocks, gave him the cash, told him to rebuild carefully. His accountant, some kid fresh out of business school, had suggested this arrangement. Tax optimization, he'd called it. Estate planning benefits. I'd signed without much thought. Michael was my son. The house would be his eventually anyway. Now that decision trapped me. I called Michael 17 times that afternoon. Each attempt went to voicemail. On the 18th try, he answered, Dad, I can't do this right now. I'm at a hotel. I need time to think. Don't call me for a while. Traffic noise behind his voice. He was driving somewhere, anywhere, just moving. Michael, we need to talk about the house, about what happens next. I don't care about the house right now. I can't. The line went dead. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Patricia and I had eaten breakfast for 17 years, and opened my laptop, methodical. That's how I'd solve problems for 4 decades as a civil engineer. Break them into components, find solutions, build systematically. Attorney searches, reviews, specializations. I made calls, explained situations briefly, scheduled consultations. By 4 in the afternoon, I had an appointment with Patricia Morgan for the next morning. Family law specialist, strong reviews, office downtown. At 7, my phone rang. Raymond Cole, the detective. Mr. Jenkins, I found something else. Brian Mitchell, the man in your footage, he's a realtor. Licensed, but he's got a record. Fraud charges, 2015. Served 18 months, got out on probation. I stood and walked to the window. Jennifer's car still sat in my driveway. A realtor, with my house deed showing joint ownership. That's not coincidence. No, sir, I don't believe it is. Want me to keep digging? Yes. Everything you can find on Brian Mitchell. Who he associates with. What properties he's handled. Any complaints or investigations. And Jennifer. Dig into her background before she met Michael. Something tells me this wasn't spontaneous. I'll have more for you in a few days. After he hung up, I walked through my house. Every room carried memories of Patricia, of raising Michael alone after she died, of building a life that felt solid and permanent. Jennifer had contaminated all of it. She sat in my living room like an occupying force, protected by paperwork I'd signed in good faith. But I'd spent 40 years building bridges and highways, calculating stress loads and failure points. I knew how to identify weaknesses in structures, and every structure, no matter how solid it appeared, had vulnerabilities. Jennifer thought she'd won because she had legal protection. She thought Michael's silence gave her leverage. She thought I was just an old man who'd lost his son's trust. She hadn't considered that I'd been planning since the first time I noticed her texting at midnight, claiming work emergencies. She hadn't known about the cameras, the detective, the 3 months of evidence I'd already gathered. This was just beginning, and I had patience that came from decades of watching concrete cure, waiting for materials to arrive, letting time work in my favor. Jennifer wanted months of legal battles. I'd give her exactly that. But every day I'd be building my case, finding every crack in her scheme, documenting everything. Engineers don't rush. We measure twice, cut once. We build to last. Patricia Morgan's office occupied the 7th floor of a building on Congress Avenue, with windows overlooking the Capitol. The waiting room smelled of leather and old books. Legal volumes lined the walls, spines aligned with precision that would have satisfied my engineering sensibilities. She was 52, according to her website, with gray threading through dark hair she'd pulled back, simply. Her handshake was firm. She gestured to the conference room, then sat across from me with a yellow legal pad. Mr. Jenkins, tell me everything. I did. The wedding disaster, the fake assault accusation, the hidden camera evidence, Jennifer's refusal to leave, the ownership complication I'd discovered, Raymond's detective work, including Brian Mitchell's criminal background. I showed her the video, the photographs, the deed. She took notes throughout, occasionally stopping me to ask pointed questions. When I finished, she set down her pen and leaned back. Mr. Jenkins, I'll be direct. The ownership situation complicates this significantly. We can't simply evict her as a trespasser when she's arguably the guest of a co-owner. But Michael isn't supporting her claim. He's not here. His silence isn't the same as opposition. In court, her attorney will argue that permission given previously still stands until explicitly revoked, and Michael would need to be the one revoking it. I felt the weight of that reality settling. What about the assault lie? She accused me in front of 80 people. Patricia leaned forward. That's our strongest angle. Defamation with multiple witnesses. If we can prove she fabricated the bruise and the claim, we establish a pattern of deception. It won't get her out immediately, but it damages her credibility for everything else. How do we prove it? Witnesses. Timeline. The venue likely has security cameras. I'll subpoena that footage. And you said there were people who can confirm your location? Laura Bennett. She's a notary, family friend. She saw me by the windows when Jennifer came back with that bruise. Several others saw me too. Patricia made notes. I'll need their contact information. We'll build a timeline proving you couldn't have attacked her. Within 3 days, she'd filed 2 motions. One sought to evict Jennifer as an unauthorized long-term guest whose implied invitation had expired. The second was a defamation suit based on the false assault accusation. Her paralegal handled the courthouse filings while Patricia contacted witnesses. Laura Bennett agreed immediately when I called her. "Vance, of course I'll testify. You were standing by the windows when she came back out. I saw you there the whole time. That girl manufactured that bruise somehow." 3 other guests, 2 of Michael's college friends and a cousin from Patricia's side of the family, also agreed. They'd all seen me in the cocktail area. The timeline made Jennifer's accusation impossible. Then Jennifer struck back. A process server arrived at the house on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. Before I could reach it, Jennifer opened the door, accepted an envelope, and turned to me with a slight smile. "This is for you." She handed me the papers. Counter motion claiming verbal agreements with co-owner Michael Jenkins for indefinite residency. Countersuit against Vance Jenkins for harassment, emotional distress, and creating a hostile living environment. Attorney Marcus Webb, specializing in tenant rights. "The law protects residents, Vance. Even ones you don't like. You're going to learn that fighting me was a mistake." I kept my voice level. "Get off my porch. It's Michael's porch too, and mine, for now." She walked back inside, leaving the door open behind her. Both attorneys tried reaching Michael for depositions. He responded through emails, brief, cold messages that cut deeper than any argument. I won't be giving depositions or testimony for either side. Jennifer lived there with my permission. Beyond that, I have nothing to say. Leave me alone. I read those words 3 times, sitting at my laptop. My son reduced to digital distance, too hurt to engage, too overwhelmed to choose sides, confirming just enough to complicate everything. Patricia called me back to her office 2 weeks after our initial meeting. The view from her conference room showed evening traffic crawling down Congress Avenue. "I want you to understand what we're facing. Best case scenario, we get a hearing in 6 weeks. More likely it's 8 to 10. Then there's discovery, possible continuances, appeals. You're looking at months of her living in your house. Months, possibly longer. Texas law favors established residency. She's been there over a year. That matters." I watched the traffic below. All those people heading home to their normal lives, their uncomplicated domestic situations. What are our chances? Patricia's expression remained professional, but I saw the honesty behind it. The defamation case? Strong. We have witnesses, timeline, evidence of fabrication. We'll win that. The eviction? Much harder. Marcus Webb is good at what he does. He'll argue tenant protections, verbal agreements, Michael's co-ownership. Even without Michael's active support, his written confirmation that Jennifer lived there with permission gives her legal standing. So she stays while we fight. Unless Michael explicitly revokes her permission and testifies to that effect. Without his participation, we're navigating around a central figure who won't engage. I thought about Michael in some anonymous hotel room, or maybe back at work trying to function through heartbreak. He'd lost his fiancée, aita betrayal. He'd learned his father had been investigating her for months without telling him. He'd watched his wedding become a public spectacle of lies and exposure, and now both sides needed him to take a position when all he wanted was distance from the wreckage. "Then we proceed without him," I said. "Document everything Jennifer does, every interaction, every expense she incurs, every day she occupies my property. Build the case piece by piece." Patricia nodded. "That's exactly what we'll do. This is going to be a war of attrition, Mr. Jenkins. She's counting on you giving up, settling, maybe even selling the property and splitting proceeds. She wants you worn down." I stood, gathered my copies of the legal filings. I built infrastructure for 40 years, highways that carry millions of cars, bridges designed to last a century. I understand long-term projects. At the door, I turned back. One more thing. The detective found that Jennifer's boyfriend is a realtor with a fraud conviction. That's not coincidence. There's a bigger scheme here. Keep looking. Patricia made a note. "I will, and Vance, document everything. Everything she says, does. Every person who visits. You're building evidence for months from now. I drove home in darkness, knowing Jennifer would be there, occupying my space, confident in her legal protections. But confidence built on deception always had cracks, and I'd spent a lifetime learning how to find them. 3 weeks into the legal battle, my phone rang while I was reviewing property tax records at the small apartment I'd rented near downtown. Raymond Cole's number. Mr. Jenkins, I've got something. It's bigger than we thought. Jennifer and Brian weren't just having an affair. They were running a real estate scam, and your house was the target. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Raymond in a coffee shop in South Austin, far from anywhere Jennifer might be. He'd chosen a corner booth away from other patrons. 2 cups of black coffee steamed between us, both untouched. Show me. Raymond slid a manila folder across the table. Phone records, legally obtained through court order. Read the conversation from April 15th. That's 6 weeks before the wedding. I opened the folder. Transcripts. Pages of them, organized by date. Each conversation between 2 phone numbers identified as belonging to Jennifer Hayes and Brian Mitchell. My hands tightened on the paper as I began reading. April 15th, 11:47 p.m. Jennifer. Michael's completely on board with the house being joint ownership. He actually thinks he's helping his dad with taxes. The old man has no idea we're setting up the biggest payday of our lives. Brian. And he'll go along with selling? You're sure? Jennifer. I can convince Michael to do anything. Once we're married, I'll give it 6 months. Then start talking about how we need our own place. How his dad's house has too many memories. Brian. Michael doesn't suspect a thing. This is going to work perfectly. I flipped through more pages. Conversation after conversation, spanning 4 months. Discussion of market values. Appraisal timing. How to present the sale to Michael as financially smart. Jennifer laughing about how sweet and trusting Michael was. Brian outlining how his LLC would handle the purchase, then flip the property within weeks. My jaw worked silently. I went back, reread sections, my engineering mind cataloging the evidence methodically. This wasn't passion or poor judgment. This was premeditation, calculation, industrial scale betrayal. They planned this for months. My voice came out tighter than I intended. The whole relationship was a setup. Raymond leaned forward. Years, actually. Jennifer targeted Michael specifically. She researched your property records, knew about the joint ownership arrangement, knew the house was paid off. This wasn't random. He pulled out another document, a property appraisal, professional, detailed, commissioned by Raymond himself through the detective agency. Your house is worth $680,000. The planned sale price to Brian's shell company, Lone Star Property Solutions, LLC, was going to be $425,000. They'd present it as a quick sale to avoid capital gains complications. I did the math automatically. $255,000. That's what they planned to steal from my son, from me, from everything Patricia and I had built. How did you get the court order for phone records? I took what we had, the affair evidence, Brian's prior fraud conviction, the pattern of similar transactions in his business history, and filed an affidavit with a judge. Probable cause for criminal conspiracy. Took 2 weeks to process, but it came through. I gathered the papers carefully, making sure nothing would crease or tear. Evidence, proof, not speculation or suspicion, but documented conspiracy. I need to see Patricia immediately. Raymond nodded. I figured. I already sent her copies. She's waiting for your call. I left my coffee untouched and drove straight to Patricia's office. Her secretary tried to intercept me. Mr. Jenkins, she's with a client. But Patricia saw my face through her office window and waved me in. We spread everything across her conference table. The original detective report, the video evidence from my hidden camera, the phone transcripts, the property appraisal, Brian's business records showing multiple similar frauds over the past 5 years. Patricia photographed each document with her phone, made copies, began drafting something on her laptop. Vance, this changes everything. She looked up from her screen. We're not just fighting an eviction battle. We're looking at conspiracy to commit fraud, possibly wire fraud if any communications cross state lines, attempted theft by deception. This is criminal. What do? We file a criminal complaint with the DA's office. I'll prepare a referral package with all this evidence. The civil suits continue, but now we've got criminal exposure hanging over both of them. Jennifer's attorney won't be able to ignore this. I looked at the transcripts again. Jennifer's words about Michael. Doesn't suspect a thing. My son reduced to a mark, a target, someone to be used and discarded once his utility expired. I want them prosecuted, both of them. Patricia's expression was serious but satisfied. The DA will make that decision, but with evidence this solid, I'd say chances are good. Brian's prior conviction will work against him. Pattern of behavior. Jennifer's looking at her first felony charge. She continued typing, organizing the criminal referral. I watched her work, seeing the transformation from defensive attorney to offensive strategist. We weren't protecting anymore. We were attacking. How long before the DA responds? Could be weeks. They'll review, investigate independently, decide whether to file charges, but in the meantime, this exists, this threat. Jennifer's attorney will know about it within days, and she'll understand what she's facing. I stood and walked to Patricia's window, looking down at Congress Avenue. Somewhere out there, Jennifer sat in my house, probably confident in her legal protections, believing she'd outmaneuvered an old man who didn't understand modern complications. She hadn't counted on methodical investigation, on patience, on someone willing to build a case brick by brick until the structure was unassailable. File everything, I said. Criminal complaint, expanded civil suit, anything else you can think of. I'm not defending my home anymore, Patricia. I'm dismantling their entire operation. She nodded once. Consider it done. I left her office as the sun set over Austin, turning the Capitol building golden. Tomorrow, Jennifer would learn that the walls were closing in, that her confident legal position had just become a potential felony prosecution. And somewhere, in whatever hotel he'd isolated himself in, Michael remained unaware that his entire relationship had been nothing but an elaborate theft scheme. That hurt worse than anything Jennifer had done to me. But truth had its own timeline, and I'd learned long ago that some structures took years to build properly. 2 days after Patricia filed the criminal complaint referral with the Travis County District Attorney's Office, Jennifer's attorney must have noticed the increased legal activity. Marcus Webb would have received copies, understood the implications. Criminal charges meant potential jail time, not just financial penalties or civil judgments. Jennifer needed protection. She needed Michael. I learned about her counterattack 3 days later when Michael's truck pulled up outside my rental apartment building with enough force that the tires squealed. I watched from my window as he got out, slammed the door, headed for the entrance, taking stairs instead of the elevator. His body language announced itself before he reached my door. The knock was hard, aggressive. I opened it to find my son transformed. Not the devastated, withdrawn Michael from the wedding disaster. This was someone certain, angry, protective. Dad, you need to stop this. All of it. The lawsuits, the criminal complaints, everything. Michael, come in. Sit down. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. He didn't sit, stayed standing in my small living room, hands gesturing sharply. Jennifer explained everything. Brian was stalking her. She was a victim, and you're treating her like a criminal. This has to stop. I remained seated, hands folded, forcing myself to stay calm. Son, I have evidence. Phone records, financial documents. I don't care about your evidence. His voice rose. Jennifer told me the truth. She admitted knowing Brian, but he wasn't her lover. He was obsessed with her. Showed up at the house. Demanded she meet him. Threatened to ruin our relationship if she didn't comply. That video you showed me? He forced himself on her. She was scared to tell anyone. The manipulation was expert. Jennifer had taken the undeniable evidence of her affair and reframed it as victimhood. Brian became the aggressor. She became the frightened woman protecting her relationship, and I became the vengeful father, misinterpreting everything. Michael, listen to me. The phone records show either you drop this crusade or you lose me permanently. I mean it, Dad. The words landed like physical blows. I looked at my son, saw Patricia's eyes in his face, heard echoes of her voice in his tone when he got stubborn, but the certainty behind his words was pure desperation from someone who wanted his life back, wanted to believe in salvageable futures. Michael, I respect your choice. You're a grown man, but I won't stop until I protect what your mother and I built our entire lives. That house, this family, I won't let it be stolen. Then you're choosing a house over your son. No, son, I'm choosing the truth. I hope someday you'll understand that. Michael's jaw tightened. We're done here. He turned toward the door. I stood, took one step forward. Michael. He paused, but didn't turn around. I love you. That won't change, no matter what you decide. The door closed behind him. Not slammed. Pulled shut firmly, deliberately. Somehow that controlled closure felt worse than rage would have. I stood in my small rental apartment, surrounded by second-hand furniture and boxes of documents, and felt the full weight of isolation. Patricia was gone 5 years. Michael was gone now too, choosing Jennifer's lies over evidence, manipulation over truth. For the first time since this began, I felt something close to defeat, but only for a moment. I walked to my phone, made 2 calls, first to Patricia. Patricia, it's Vance. Michael just left. He's siding with Jennifer. He threatened to testify for her, to cut me off completely if I continue. And what do you want to do? I looked at the boxes of evidence stacked against my wall. Transcripts, photos, financial records, documentation of a conspiracy that had targeted my son as ruthlessly as a predator targets prey. We continue. Everything. I need evidence so clear that even Michael can't deny it. Whatever it takes. Patricia's response came without hesitation. Then we give him no choice but to see the truth. I'll coordinate with Raymond. If Jennifer and Brian are this bold, they'll make mistakes. People running cons always do. The second call was to Raymond Cole. Raymond, Michael's chosen Jennifer's side. She's told him Brian was stalking her, that she's a victim. He believes it, despite the phone transcripts. He hasn't seen them. I didn't show him. He wasn't ready to hear it. He'd have dismissed it as fabricated or taken out of context. Raymond was quiet for a moment. So we need something undeniable. Something even she can't spin. Exactly. Keep watching them. Jennifer thinks she's won Michael's protection. People get careless when they think they're safe. After both calls, I sat at my small kitchen table and ate dinner mechanically. Microwaved leftovers that tasted like cardboard. Outside my window, Austin's lights spread across the hills. Thousands of homes where families gathered without this weight of betrayal and legal warfare. Michael was wrong, but he wasn't evil. He was exhausted, heartbroken, desperate for resolution. Jennifer had offered him what he needed most, a narrative where their relationship could be saved, where his father was the problem, not her. It was easier to believe one person was wrong than to accept that everything he'd built his life around was fraudulent. I understood that. It didn't make it hurt less. But understanding informed strategy. Michael would need proof so overwhelming that denial became impossible. Not transcripts he could question. Not detective reports he could dismiss as biased. Something direct, something undeniable. Jennifer and Brian had been careful so far, but they were trapped now between legal pressure and Michael's protection. Trapped people made desperate choices, and desperate choices created opportunities. I cleaned my plate, washed it methodically, then returned to my boxes of evidence and began reading through everything again. Engineers solve problems by understanding every variable, every stress point, every potential failure mode. Jennifer thought she'd secured Michael's support. She thought that changed the equation. She was right that it changed things, but not in the way she imagined. A week after Michael's confrontation with me, Jennifer filed a formal complaint with the Austin Police Department. Domestic violence, pattern of harassment. She claimed the bruise from the wedding was recent, that she felt unsafe in the shared residence, that I'd been increasingly aggressive. 2 patrol cars arrived on a Tuesday morning. I was checking my mail when they pulled up. Neighbors appeared at windows like witnesses to a crime scene. Jennifer met the officers at the door, tissues already in hand. They separated us. Jennifer got the living room. I got the garage. Sir, there's been a complaint filed against you for domestic violence. Can you provide your account? I stood in my own garage, surrounded by tools I'd collected over 40 years, and gave them facts. The bruise happened 6 weeks ago at the wedding. She fabricated it herself. I had witnesses, Laura Bennett, 3 others, who could confirm I never touched her. This was part of ongoing property litigation. We'll need those witness names and contact information. I provided everything. Phone numbers, addresses, the court case numbers. The officers took notes, their expressions professionally neutral. They'd heard stories from both sides before, knew that truth often lives somewhere in the complicated middle. Inside, Jennifer was crying, showing photos on her phone from angles that made the fading bruise look fresh and violent. The investigation closed within 3 days. Timeline inconsistencies, witness statements, lack of physical evidence. But the complaint remained on record, a permanent suggestion that I was dangerous. The damage spread faster than facts could correct it. I discovered the spray paint 2 mornings later, going out for the newspaper with my coffee. Orange letters across my mailbox. Abuser. Visible from the street. Bright and accusatory. I stood there, coffee going cold in my hand, and methodically photographed it from every angle before getting cleaning supplies from the garage. A neighbor I'd known for 15 years crossed the street rather than walk past me on the sidewalk. Another, loading groceries into her car, saw me and hurried inside without her usual wave. I heard whispers at the hardware store. That's him. Police were at his house. Michael's text arrived that afternoon. I'm moving back home. Jennifer needs support during this difficult time. Please respect our space. Our space. My home for 30 years, where Patricia and I had raised him, where her pictures still hung on walls, had become our space, shared with the woman trying to destroy me. He moved in 3 days later. I watched from my bedroom window as his truck backed into the driveway, as he and Jennifer carried boxes inside, laughing about something, touching each other's arms with easy affection. He never looked up at my window. For 2 weeks, I attempted cohabitation. I slept in my own bedroom with the door locked, used the kitchen at 5:30 in the morning before they woke, worked in my garage workshop on projects that didn't need doing, just to have somewhere to exist. Jennifer made sure every moment was hostile. She changed the lock on the master bedroom, her and Michael's room now, played music late into the night, bass thumping through walls, had Brian visit openly for coffee, making sure I saw them sitting together on my couch, his arm draped casually across the back cushions. One evening, passing them in the hallway, I heard Jennifer whisper to Brian, "He's barely here anymore. A few more weeks, and he'll probably just give up and sign everything over. This is working perfectly." I found an apartment the next day, small 1-bedroom in a complex off Highway 183, 20 minutes from Lakeway. Functional, anonymous, temporary. The leasing agent asked about my previous residence. "Family complications," I said, and she didn't push further. I called Patricia from the apartment parking lot after signing the lease. "I can't stay in that house with them. I need to find another place." "Don't let them force you out of your own home, Vance. That could hurt our legal position." "I'm not giving up the house. I'll keep paying everything. Mortgage, utilities, taxes, insurance. I'm maintaining my ownership, but I need to be strategic, and I need better evidence." "What kind of evidence?" "The kind even Michael can't explain away." I moved on a Saturday morning while they were out. Clothes, laptop, essential toiletries. Everything else stayed. Furniture, Patricia's photos, my tools, 40 years of accumulated life. This wasn't permanent surrender. This was tactical retreat. Before leaving, I installed 4 new cameras, professional grade disguised as everyday objects. A wall clock in the kitchen, electrical outlets in the living room and hallway, a smoke detector in the entryway, motion activated, cloud uploaded, accessible from my phone. Nearly impossible to detect unless you knew exactly what to look for. Jennifer thought she'd won. She'd damaged my reputation, secured Michael's protection, driven me from my own home. She felt safe now, confident, and confident people made mistakes. I locked the door behind me for what I thought might be the last time as a resident, but I'd learned something building bridges and highways for 4 decades. Sometimes you had to demolish the old structure before you could build something that would last. The surveillance system went live the moment I left. Whatever happened in that house now, I'd know about it. And eventually, so would Michael. 3 weeks into my new routine, I'd watch the recordings each evening after work. Laptop open on my apartment's small kitchen counter, reviewing footage while eating microwave dinners. Most of it was mundane. Jennifer scrolling her phone, Michael coming home tired from his IT job downtown, the 2 of them watching television. Then, on a Tuesday morning, Jennifer started searching. I was drinking coffee, preparing for work, when the motion alert pinged my phone. Jennifer moved through the house systematically, checking behind picture frames, inside air vents, under furniture. She knew what she was looking for. She found the first old camera in the living room bookshelf, held it up to examine, then yanked out the wiring with satisfaction. The second camera, hidden in a kitchen cabinet, came out minutes later. She immediately texted someone, Brian presumably, with a photo of her discoveries. He arrived that evening. I watched him inspect both cameras professionally, turning them over in his hands, nodding. "These are the same models I spotted weeks ago." His voice came through clearly on my new kitchen wall. Clock, camera. "Basic consumer grade. We're clear." Jennifer looked uncertain. "Are you sure? What if there are more?" "I've checked this place professionally. These were the only two. Trust me, I know what I'm looking for." Over the next several days, their behavior changed, more relaxed. Brian started visiting during daytime hours when Michael was at work. They spoke freely, touched casually, acted like the house belonged to them. Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks after they'd found the old cameras, Brian arrived at 2:15. Michael's shift didn't end until 6. Almost 4 hours of privacy. Jennifer made coffee. They settled at the kitchen table, my kitchen table, and Brian spread out documents. The wall clock camera captured everything in perfect HD. "Okay, so here's the play." Brian's finger traced across papers. "Home equity loan, $220,000. With the house appraised at $680,000 and the mortgage paid off, it's barely a third of the equity. Banks love this. And Michael will go along with it. You'll convince him. Tell him I have investment opportunities. Property flips that return 30%. Tell him it's how you build real wealth. The guy works in IT making $70,000 a year. He'll jump at the chance to make big money." Jennifer laughed, a sound without warmth. "He's been skeptical about financial risks since his business failed. That's why he's still making $70,000 a year." Brian leaned back in my chair, put his feet up on another. "He's cautious, which makes him the easiest mark I've ever worked. Cautious people want security so bad they'll believe anything that promises it." "I can't believe he actually thinks I love him." Jennifer sipped her coffee. "After everything, the affair evidence, the wedding disaster, he still took me back." "That's the beauty of targets like Michael. They want the fantasy so much they'll ignore reality. His father showed him video of us, and he still chose to believe your stalking story." Jennifer shook her head, smiling. "Naive doesn't even cover it. Pathetic is closer." Watching from my apartment, my hands clenched into fists. My jaw locked so tight my teeth ached. But I didn't look away. I needed to see all of it, hear all of it, document every word. Brian pulled out more papers, loan applications with signatures that looked like Michael's handwriting, but with subtle differences I recognized as forgery. 6 months, Brian continued. We get the loan, we make a few small investments to establish the pattern, then you file for divorce. In Texas, that loan money is community property acquired during the marriage. You get half minimum, probably more with a good attorney. And then Arizona? Fresh start? Arizona, new names, new lives. We'll have over 100,000 each, plus whatever we can pull from the divorce settlement. Not bad for a year's work. They discussed details, which bank to approach first, how Jennifer would present it to Michael, timeline for the investments. The Arizona rental property Brian had already secured under a false name. When they mentioned Michael again, calling him a naive fool who deserves what's coming, I closed my eyes briefly, not from weakness, from the effort of staying seated, of not driving back to that house, of remembering that rage accomplished nothing without strategy. At 3:47, Brian left. I was on the phone to Patricia before his car cleared the driveway. I'm sending you a video. Watch it now. Jennifer and Brian, in my house, planning to defraud my son of over $200,000. Silence on the other end while she pulled it up on her computer, then a long exhale. Vance, this is exactly what we needed. Conspiracy to commit fraud, loan fraud, identity theft if they use those false names. And the part about Michael, him hearing them mock him like that, will that be enough? Will this finally open his eyes? If this doesn't, nothing will. When do you want to show him? I looked at my laptop screen, frozen on an image of Jennifer and Brian laughing at my kitchen table. Documents spread between them like blueprints for theft. Soon. But first, I want to make sure we have everything legally protected. I want them charged, Patricia. Both of them. Criminal charges that stick. I'll coordinate with Raymond and the DA's office. With the phone transcripts and now this video, we have conspiracy from multiple angles. The forged signatures on those loan applications, that's a separate felony. After hanging up with Patricia, I called Raymond, sent him the files, watched him watch the video in real time through our video call, saw his expression harden when Brian called Michael the easiest mark. They're criminals, Raymond said quietly. Professional ones. This wasn't Jennifer's first con, and it definitely wasn't Brian's. Can you prove that? Give me 3 days. I'll dig into both their backgrounds deeper, find the pattern. People like this don't suddenly start with a scheme this sophisticated. I saved the video to 3 separate cloud services, downloaded copies to 2 external drives, took screenshots of the most damning moments, Jennifer's face as she laughed about Michael thinking she loved him, Brian's casual contempt, the forged loan applications visible on the table. Evidence? Finally, irrefutable. Michael was still at work, probably sitting in his office cubicle checking server logs or troubleshooting network issues, unaware that in a few days his entire world would collapse again. But this time, he'd see the truth not through his father's explanations, but through Jennifer's own words. She'd mocked him, called him pathetic, planned his financial destruction while he slept beside her each night, trusting and naive and desperately wanting to believe in salvageable love. Part of me wanted to call him immediately, send the video, force him to watch. But strategy mattered more than urgency. The DA needed time to review. Patricia needed to prepare. And I needed Michael to see this not as his father's attack, but as justice's revelation. Outside my apartment window, Austin spread across the hills in evening light. Somewhere in that sprawl, Jennifer and Brian felt safe, successful, inches from their biggest payday. They had no idea the walls had already closed around them. 2 days after obtaining the video, I sent Michael a text message. Can we talk? Not about the legal stuff, just coffee. The place on West 6th, if you remember it. The coffee shop held history. Saturday mornings before Jennifer, Michael, and I would meet there, discussing everything from career decisions to basketball playoffs to nothing important at all. Just father and son sharing time. I didn't know if he'd respond. The next morning I arrived early. Chose the booth by the window, the one we always used. Ordered 2 black coffees before he arrived. The way we both drank it. No sugar, no cream. Checked my watch repeatedly. 9 o'clock became 9:15. Maybe he wouldn't come. Then he appeared in the doorway. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss visible in his face and neck. He spotted me, hesitated, then crossed the room and slid into the booth without speaking. I wasn't sure I'd come, he said finally. I'm glad you did. How are you? He laughed bitterly. That's a complicated question. Work is fine. Everything else? He trailed off, staring at his coffee. We talked carefully for 10 minutes. His latest project at work, a server migration that was causing headaches. The heat wave, traffic on I-35. Everything safe, everything meaningless. Then I placed my tablet on the table between us. Before you say anything, just watch this. Please. After you've seen it, if you want to leave, I'll understand. But you need to see it. I'd queued up the video, volume adjusted just loud enough for him to hear, but not for other patrons. I pressed play and turned the screen toward him. His face went through stages as he watched. Confusion first. Jennifer and Brian at the kitchen table. Documents spread between them. Then recognition as he understood what he was seeing. Horror when Brian mentioned the home equity loan amount. Jennifer's voice came through clearly. The guy works in IT, making $70,000 a year. He'll jump at the chance to make big money. Brian's response. That's why he's still making $70,000 a year. He's cautious, which makes him the easiest mark I've ever worked. Michael leaned forward, intent, as if proximity to the screen might change what was happening. Then Jennifer laughed, that particular sound that would haunt him, and said, I can't believe he actually thinks I love him. His hand trembled. His coffee cup rattled against the saucer, but he kept watching. When the video ended, silence. Michael stared at the blank screen for what felt like a full minute. I didn't speak, didn't push, just waited. When was this? His voice came out hoarse. Thursday afternoon, 4 days ago, while you were at work. She's been in my bed every night since then. He spoke more to himself than to me, smiling at me, kissing me, planning to rob me. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, scrolled through messages, turned the screen toward me. A text from Jennifer, sent yesterday. Brian mentioned some investment opportunities. Maybe we should talk about that home equity loan again. Could be our chance to really build something. She's actually doing it, Michael said. Everything they said on that video. She's doing it right now. What do you want to do? He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in weeks. What do I do, Dad? Tell me what to do. We can take this to the police right now, file formal charges. Or you can go home, confront her yourself. But if you confront her first, she'll deny everything, maybe destroy evidence, probably disappear. We need to act legally, immediately, if we're going to stop this. Michael set his phone down carefully. She called me pathetic, called me an idiot. She never loved me at all. No, son, she didn't. I'm sorry, but no. He sat there, processing, rebuilding his entire understanding of the past 2 years. Every memory now suspect. Every moment recategorized as manipulation. Let's go to the police, he said finally. I'll give a statement. I'll testify. Whatever you need. We left the coffee shop together, drove in separate vehicles to Patricia's office downtown. She was waiting. I'd called ahead, told her Michael might be coming. Her conference table was already prepared with documents. Michael, I need you to confirm a few things for the record. Patricia's voice was professional, but kind. Did Jennifer discuss taking a home equity loan on the property? Yes, multiple times. She said Brian had investment opportunities that could return 30%. She made it sound like a smart financial move. And did you agree to this loan? No. I was considering it, but something felt off. I kept delaying. Now I know why. She was setting me up. Patricia took detailed notes, had Michael sign affidavits, prepared witness statements. Then we drove to the police station's fraud division. Raymond Cole met us there, guided us to an interview room with a recording device on the table. Mr. Jenkins, in your own words, describe your relationship with Jennifer Hayes and when loan discussions began. Michael spoke clearly, his IT professional's mind organizing information even under emotional stress. He described meeting Jennifer 2 years ago, her moving in, the gradual introduction of Brian as a financial advisor, the increasing pressure about the loan. Did she mention Brian Mitchell specifically in relation to these investments? Yes. She positioned him as a successful realtor with great contacts, someone who could help us build wealth. She made him sound professional, credible. Not, Michael paused, not what he actually was. The statement took an hour. When we emerged, Raymond pulled me aside. The assistant DA is reviewing everything now. Your video, the phone transcripts, Michael's testimony. With Brian's prior conviction and probation violation, we've got him solid. Jennifer, too. By end of day, Raymond called. We got approval. Arrest warrants for both of them. Brian Mitchell for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted identity theft, and violation of probation. Jennifer Hayes as accomplice. Plus, we're adding charges for the false assault report from the wedding. I sat in my truck in the police station parking lot after everyone left, watching the sunset over Austin. Michael had driven back to work to finish his day. He said he needed normalcy, needed to think. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Thank you for not giving up on me. I typed back, You're my son. I wasn't giving up on you. Not ever. Justice was coming. But more important than any legal victory, more valuable than the house or money or vindication, I had my son back. The next morning, 2 Austin police officers arrested Brian Mitchell at his real estate office on North Lamar Boulevard. Raymond called me with the details. We got him this morning. Clean arrest. When we mentioned the probation violation, he went white. He knows what that means. Real prison time. And Jennifer? Officers are heading to the house now. Michael's at work. He won't have to see it. Jennifer tried her usual tactics when detectives arrived that afternoon. I heard about it later through Raymond. The tears, the claims of being a victim, the attempt to manipulate. But these officers had watched the video evidence. They'd seen her mock Michael, heard her plan the fraud. Ma'am, we have video evidence of you planning to defraud your fiancé of over $200,000. You need to come with us now. She was booked and released on bond that evening, but the legal momentum had shifted irreversibly. Patricia filed an emergency eviction order. Within a week, a judge granted it. 2 weeks after the arrests, a Travis County constable supervised Jennifer's removal from my property. I stood in the driveway with Patricia beside me as Jennifer emerged with 2 suitcases and a backpack. Everything she'd arrived with 2 years ago. The expensive clothes, jewelry, all the possessions she'd accumulated were gone, sold to pay her defense attorney. She looked at me with pure hatred, but said nothing. The constable ensured she left without incident. Her car disappeared down the street, and the house was mine again. The legal proceedings stretched through spring into summer. Brian, facing overwhelming evidence and a probation violation, pleaded guilty in May. 3 years in state prison. His prior conviction and the recorded conspiracy left him no defense. Jennifer fought longer but eventually accepted a plea deal in July. 2 years probation, 200 hours community service, $15,000 restitution for my legal fees, permanent restraining order. The defamation suit settled separately. She admitted the assault accusation was false, provided a written apology, paid an additional $8,000 in damages. In late July, Michael and I met with Patricia and a real estate attorney at a title company office. Documents spread across the table, official and final. Dad, I want to sign this over to you completely. Michael's pen hovered over the deed transfer. It was always your house. I should never have let that accountant convince us otherwise. Michael, you're still my heir. When I'm gone, this all goes to you. That hasn't changed. I know, but while you're here, it should be yours. No complications. No joint ownership. Just yours. He signed. The notary stamped. I became sole owner again. Then Michael pulled me into a brief, awkward hug. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything, for not believing you, for choosing her over you, for being the fool they said I was. You weren't a fool. You were a man who wanted to believe in love. That's not foolish, that's human. She made me doubt you, my own father. I don't know if I can forgive myself for that. You don't need to forgive yourself. You just need to move forward. We both do. Michael had moved into his own apartment near his work, a small but decent place he paid for himself. Sunday dinners at my house became routine again. The first was stilted, eaten mostly in silence. The second included conversation about work. By the third, we laughed at something on television. Progress was incremental, but real. In early August, I fully moved back home, changed all the locks, had the place professionally cleaned, opened every window to air out the residue of betrayal, unpacked my boxes from the temporary apartment, reclaimed my space. The house felt like mine again. On a warm evening in mid-August, I sat on my back porch, watching the sunset paint Austin's skyline orange and purple. Summer was fading toward fall. The cicadas sang their evening song. Michael's truck pulled into the driveway. He came around back carrying 2 cups of coffee from our West 6th Street coffee shop. Our place, restored. He handed me 1 cup, settled into the second chair beside me. We sat in comfortable silence, watching light fade from the sky. Thanks, Dad, his voice was quiet, for not giving up. On the house, on the legal fight, on me. You're my son. I wasn't giving up on you. Not ever. I know that now. I should have known it then. More silence. Comfortable now, not weighted with tension or unspoken accusations. Just father and son, sharing space and time. Coffee's good, I said. Same place. Same order. Some things should stay the same. The sunset deepened to purple, then dark blue. Lights came on across the city. Somewhere out there, Jennifer was serving her probation, learning that consequences were real. Brian was in a state prison, his career destroyed, his freedom gone for years. The justice system had worked when presented with irrefutable evidence. But sitting here with my son, watching the evening settle over the city, I realized that justice wasn't the real victory. The house wasn't the real victory. The legal triumph wasn't the real victory. Michael was the real victory. My son healed enough to sit beside me. Our relationship damaged but mending, broken but not destroyed. He'd chosen truth over comfortable lies. He'd found the courage to face his mistakes and move forward. I placed my hand on his shoulder briefly. He nodded, understanding everything I couldn't say. The cicadas sang. The coffee was still warm, and after months of war, manipulation, and betrayal, there was finally peace. Not perfect peace. We both carried scars. But honest peace, built on truth and patience, and the refusal to surrender what mattered most. The house was mine. Justice had been served. And most importantly, I had my son back. That was enough. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.